meeting is a really great opportunity, and it's something that the FDA has allowed people to do as sort of an acknowledgement of the increased complexity and sophistication of some of these new therapies that are coming through the market. Historically, for the traditional therapies, your small molecule therapeutics, your medical devices, the FDA had a really rigid approach to how they evaluated data and what they wanted people to do. And in advance of those sorts of submissions, they would give you a single pre-IND or pre-IDE meeting, what's generally called a pre-submission meeting. And these were official meetings, and it was a chance for you to present your preclinical program, your manufacturing information, some details about what you intend to do in your clinical trial, and have that reviewed by a panel of FDA experts from various areas that are relevant to what you were doing. And for things like small molecule drugs and standard medical devices, a lot of historicity was involved in the way that they evaluated that data. So this was just an opportunity to sort of put a plan in front of the FDA and have them say, yeah, that's good enough, or maybe you should do this as well. But that's sort of an acknowledgement by the agency that as we get into cell therapies and regenerative medicine and molecular-based therapies, the complexity of these approaches to clinic have gotten a little more sophisticated. And the amount of work that goes into there is a little bit different than what people have done historically. And so the FDA has allowed people to take something called a pre-pre meeting. It's an unofficial meeting. It generates no official minutes. And the idea behind that is if you're in the cell-based space or in the regenerative medicine space or one of these molecular-based spaces, you can get a chance to have a meeting very similar to the pre-IND meeting, but it generates no official minutes. It's just an opportunity to sit down with the FDA and say, this is my therapy, these are the indications I'm looking for, this is some of the preliminary data I have, and this is my general idea of what I want to do before I get to my submission or my official pre-IND meeting. What do you think about that? Now, these are questions that you wouldn't typically ask in a pre-IND meeting. The one thing that they always warn people about is you don't go into an official meeting, a pre-IND, pre-IDE meeting, and say, what do you think I should do? Because if you do that, the FDA will traditionally say, well, you'll do everything. And at that point, because that's an official meeting that generates official minutes, you've sort of painted yourself into a bit of a corner. The great thing about the pre-pre is it's an unofficial meeting, and it's very friendly. It's very just a back and forth conversation. It's not a top-down tablets coming down from the Sinai kind of edict from the FDA. I find these sort of meetings to be collegial and super helpful, because I view these pre-submission unofficial meetings with the agency as a free bite at the apple. It's a great chance to get some direct feedback from the regulators. And a lot of times they'll have guidance or suggestions that you might not be aware of either, because remember that these reviewers review proposals from other groups, and sometimes they will find an optimal way to assess a certain aspect of your preclinical proposal that you hadn't considered before. And a lot of times because of confidentiality, they can't give you a lot of detail, but they can point you in the right direction. They can say, well, in the manufacturing process, that certain enzymes have shown to be problematic. You might want to look into that. So these sorts of things I think are invaluable. And I would strongly recommend anyone in a therapeutic space that allows the pre-IND, the pre-pre meeting, should absolutely take advantage of that. And if you don't, I think you're really missing out on a great chance to expedite your path to clinic and sort of de-risk aspects of your product development pipeline by having that feedback from the FDA.